Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank broadcast. Today is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. And today I have Chris Seveney, Jay Redding, and Jamie Bateman on the show today. And lucky for you guys, we don't really have a PowerPoint to show you today, but we are going to have some fun conversations and kind of talk about some borrowers and notes and just kind of some things that we go through and just in some current economic challenges that are happening in our environment. So stay tuned. Good morning, good afternoon, good late evening to all of you.
Wherever you may be.
Are we live?
We are.
Yes,
we are live.
Or are we on Memorex? There we
From
go.
Wednesday night. It's Be the Bank.
Yes.
Be the bank or da bank? It should be da bank. Be da
bank.
bank.
Well, that's a
Bank.
Midwest thing. That's Chicago / the Bears, the bank.
Da Bears, da bank. It's the same thing. You bet on the Bears, it's da bank. If you bet on them to lose, right?
Okay.
They're not very good this year.
They're better this year, I think, right?
Yeah.
Then last year, yeah, they got rid of Justin Fields, right? And he's on the Pittsburgh
Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Steelers. I almost said Penguins. I don't know why I would say that.
Wrong sport.
Way wrong sport. Much more violent. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Seems like everyone's kind of.
Good.
There's
I
not a
know.
lot of chatter before we hopped on the live call either. I think everyone's tired. What's going on?
I was more focused on those set of keys and trying to figure out. One of them looks like an old Chevy, like Mark III van or Chevy, Oldsmobile key versus, with the
Oldsmobile, yeah.
square, than a house key. Now the round one, that looks like a deadbolt lock, but it's trying to place where those keys were.
This is very important.
Easter egg.
Right.
Found the Easter egg.
People want to know what I do in my free time. There you go.
Hey,
There you go.
you should be a roof inspector, man. You can pick out all those hail spots with how much detail you put into that.
So,
10 by 10. Look at the 10 by 10.
I
Right?
actually
In the 10 hits and 10 by 10 square.
I actually do have a funny story about that, where I have a friend who started his own construction company building houses, and he was building this beautiful house up in Pennsylvania, and he sent me photos, and he knew I always give him a ration of what, and we do it back and forth and stuff. And I jokingly say, I'm like, concrete looks pretty good, but I'm like, whoever drilled your anchor bolts, I said, those are clearly not the right spacing. And anchor bolts are on top of concrete, the bolts that go in, that the wood then drills through and stuff. And he's like, how the hell would you notice that? And I was like, I was actually only kidding. I mean, he's like, and he's like, how'd you notice that? And I was like, actually, I'm like, yeah, they just looked off. And he's like, no, they are. They have to go back and re-drill them all and stuff and so forth. And I was just actually trying to find something to give him, what for and stuff. And he's like, how'd you notice that? So,
Man,
Good
I'm
guess.
taking Chris out to all my properties.
Right.
Check things out. Chris the inspector.
I've been through many inspections.
I gotta say, I'm sure you've been through a few.
Yeah, a few thousand.
Just a couple.
So we've got some hurricane damage coming through, and has been through most of the eastern board there in
Yes.
Florida.
Very much so.
Does anybody have any properties or notes that are currently underwater or gone?
So I'm knocking on wood, and literally underwater, not less value than the note, but I'm actually supposed to close today on 2 loans in Port Charlotte, which is, we mentioned before, like, where's that for? I'm like, just south of Tampa. So that was, and we've been in communication with the seller for, since, last Friday,
Mhm.
and we've had challenges trying to get a BPO actually on the property because of the storms
Sure.
and everything. And we
Yeah.
were letting them know that, and they allegedly got the BPOs done last night. We haven't seen a report, but we basically said, hey, look, even if we get them back, we'll want to get an idea of if there's damage, what's the damage, and they're non-performing loans, and of course understand. But one of the questions we did ask too is, hey, by the way, do you have flood insurance and forced place insurance on these? And they actually, as part of due diligence, provided the flood insurance policies. But thankfully, that I'm aware of, because we have inspections all the time, and we heat map all our assets. We haven't had any that were impacted by the prior hurricane that went up through Asheville in that area. This one, we don't have any that are in direct impact that we own. It's just these two that we're doing due diligence on.
Sure. Gotcha.
We don't have anything in Asheville at this moment, or in Florida. We don't have anything in Florida right now. So
I've got two rental properties in Florida. So Jacksonville and Ocala. We'll see.
Jacksonville's way up on the east.
They're both kind of, I mean, Ocala's probably a little more in the line. I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't think I own any notes in North Carolina right now. So yeah.
I have a few in the Carolinas. I don't have any in Florida though, but most of my stuff was land.
And just for people keeping score, after this one, there's two more on the way coming too. So
oh jeez.
2 more hurricanes.
yeah, one I think they think is just going to veer out, but they think the third one is actually going to come back up and hit potentially down by the Miami area.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
I do
It's
have a loan in
relentless.
Miami, so. But that house is a house is entirely concrete.
Hopefully that should survive.
Yeah. So.
If anybody got any questions or comments, please feel free to use the whatever we're streaming to right now. We are streaming to multiple accounts and multiple different streams to different social media platforms.
Not you, Chris. Other people.
It's not Chris. He refuses to stream.
No, no questions from Chris. I'm saying he can't.
Oh, no questions from
technologically challenged. I do have a question that I think would be kind of spurring the discussion for people on the notes, because we were just talking about Asheville, we're talking about Florida, and many parts of Florida have flood insurance on these assets, but other parts like Asheville doesn't have flood insurance. And I was reading an interesting article about kind of what happens on that, and the way I interpret it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of out of luck if you have a flood that comes through, destroys everything, and regular insurance doesn't cover that. So, I think I know what happens, but I haven't had to experience it. Again, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But have you guys ever ran into it or seen it or anything? Because it's usually rare.
I've had nothing like this, but a minor, issues with flooding at local rental properties where it wasn't covered. So, but yeah, I think you're kind of SOL basically.
Yeah. You're footing that bill.
Mm-hmm.
I've not experienced anything like that before.
Yeah, unless we should have Beth come on for the insurance discussion, but I don't know if it is, would it be considered an act of God or something versus a flood? I don't know if there's a clause in the regular coverage that might kick in.
Well, I would essentially say, as tough as tight things are in the insurance companies, they're going to probably do everything possible that they're not going to pay on that.
Oh yeah. Right.
We need to deliberate this for 365 days, and we'll get you a decision in the next few years.
Yeah. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Because what I've read, and again, just for people listening, is, like you said, you're out of luck. It's like it's a non-insurable event, so the borrower still owes you the money, but you're probably going to foreclose on the property, which is now probably just vacant land, or you're going to have to do something with it. So you're going to probably suffer pretty severe loss on that, which would be extremely unfortunate.
Yeah. I can parlay that into a recent story has to do with the property just essentially being worthless. If you want, Justin.
Sure, go ahead.
So it bought a note in New York from someone on this call, not Justin or Jay, years ago.
Wait a minute. We got 4 on the call. We eliminated 2.
I only got
speaking.
one note
Wait.
in New York, man.
So
It's
can I hold on? He said he bought a note. He bought a loan. He missed
Yeah.
a word at the beginning. He bought a performing loan.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll get it.
okay.
So this is, I'm curious to get your guys' opinion. I may have referred to it before, but I'll go into a little more detail. This is one of the risks, the inherent risks with note investing is, I bought it was a 10-pack of New York notes from Chris, and this was one of them. And yeah, it was definitely performing. In fact, I owned it for 2 or 3 years before there were any issues. The guy was paying on time. There were some maybe property condition issues here and there, but it was a performing loan the whole time I owned it. And so, you don't get inside the property typically when you're doing due diligence, right? So, let's say 2 or 3 years he's performing, and then all of a sudden we realize the taxes go delinquent. So we actually started foreclosure action based on the delinquent taxes, but then he stopped paying on the loan as well. And so I think we just rolled it all into one action. But the guy went dark, and this was a little complicated because it had been assigned to an heir, and but the actual borrower who was supposed to now be paying, we find out had federal prison charges, federal drug and gun charges, and was facing multiple decades in prison. And then, so the property's vacant. And then this was in Syracuse, and the township was, when a property's vacant in New York, there are the zombie laws that kick in. So you've got, as the lender, you are responsible to maintain that property. So we're getting kind of, threatening letters from the town, from the city. And I think the houses on either side of this one had been condemned. And then we find out there had been a fire in the house, which we had no way of knowing because the guy was paying all along. Right. So, at the end of the day, we ended up just deciding to walk away from the property because it was just, causing us more pain and potential financial loss in the future. So released the lien, and now we do have the guy still owes us 40 grand or something. So we have the option. I'm, curious to see what you guys would do here. Likely it's going to be a complete loss, but we are able to still sue this borrower on on the note
Judgment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
deficiency judgment.
Yeah, I don't know if, and I'm not obviously an attorney. I think, just could be wrong, but I think a deficiency judgment is only the overage over the property, but it might still be the right term here. But suing the guy on the note for the full note amount. But the thing is, he's facing multiple decades in prison, likely has no assets. One, how do you run a credit check? If you don't have the loan's no longer with a servicer. So I'm actually checking with the prior servicer to see if they'll run it for us. Because that's been a little bit of an obstacle. And then, there's art and science to this, but I'm at a crossroads of, I don't want to quit because I kind of see it as a lottery ticket. There might be some real upside here, but likely nothing will come of it. And for a little more information, it would be about $4,000 to $5,000 to file the lawsuit and legal costs. So curious to get each of your thoughts.
Well, I know a guy who has a deficiency judgment against somebody in New York, and originally filed a restraining order with the bank of where his bank account is. So if you had the servicer tell you where the money was coming from, they could then file a restraining order against that bank and tell the bank to freeze the assets to see how much money he had, because you could claim those assets. But then the bank says, we're not freezing it because he has a car loan which exceeds your amount, even though he has 40,000, but his car loan's 50. So the bank is kind of like doing, should they do that? Should they not do that? So you then get the bank involved and basically going after the bank and maybe filing charges against the bank as well. But then if that doesn't work, then you can file a motion of contempt to have him come testify and provide proper information. But then if he doesn't testify, then you can ask the court to order his arrest as well, to get him. Well, this guy's already in jail, so you don't have to worry about that. But they'll know where to find him, to question him, to basically get him to come to the table and pay. Now, when I speak to my friend about this, or my acquaintance on this, it's a lengthy process. Like you said, it's not the cheapest thing, but it is a way, and believe it or not, in New York, where you can garnish the wages, and most likely they paid the servicer from the check. So if they had copies of the check, you got his bank account information that you could try and go lock onto.
Now, why didn't my attorney give me any of this information? And why aren't you an attorney?
So maybe I am an attorney. I just don't want to play one, and I'm just hiding it from all you guys.
You've been hiding it
from all of you. But the attorneys, are painful to get some of this information out of them, because they're like, "Oh, you just give up," and I'm like, "Nope." Yeah, keep going.
Right.
And they're like, keep going.
Well, to be honest, I'm not, obviously I won't name the attorney, but it frustrated me because the whole plan was to release the lien and then sue this guy. And now the attorney is like, well, you're probably not going to get anything anyway. It's like, well, why did we go through all this?
Well, I'm going to say that's not his decision to make. That's yours.
No, it is. It's a business decision, but
yeah,
I just, but do you want to throw bad or good money after bad?
That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
If you determine, okay, how much is a judgment? First thing I would do is kind of figure out if there's a way to see if you can get a copy of those checks.
That's a good,
because then you have those statements. Then you have something you can tell the attorney, hey, I want to get this judgment. I have where he got the payments from, so we could at least try and go lock that account.
Yeah, I like
now,
that.
my guess is in prison, you're not taking advantage of the Amazon Prime Day that we're having right now, or happened yesterday. I'm guessing. So maybe he's got some money in the account, and who knows?
No, and also the property still probably has some value. We just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So
yeah,
he might get something from that too.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's good. I love it.
The only thing I would be concerned about, Jamie, is that your house is between two condemned houses. So I'm thinking, okay, what is the area really like, and there really is there any real value there?
There's not a lot. I agree, but yeah, and I this was speculation, but someone suggested that the reason the city had not condemned our collateral, our house, was that because of the federal case against this guy, and so they were kind of delaying the condemnation, if you will. So
it would be awful if some people went in there smoking crack and it lit up and burnt down. So but
say it.
Then you got the lot. At least you got the dirt.
Does your acquaintance know anybody who smokes crack?
My acquaintance, not crack. What's the one that they have to give you the epinephrine from, or not meth, not the smoking. What's the
Narcan?
Yeah, Narcan. What do they give you for Narcan? What do they give you for whatever drug that Narcan you got to use for? Yeah, I got people that I know who have used that and had to get the Narcan to save their lives. So, but if you want me, I can hook you up with my friend to talk to you more about it.
Yeah, if you could send me his contact information, that'd be great.
Sure. It's CassidyInvestments.com.
No, it's not.
Info at Cassidy Investments.
Yeah, that wasn't hurricane related, but it was an interesting story. I think
that's okay.
Well,
and that's kind of the topic for today, is to talk about just stories about borrowers with struggles, and whether there's a success story behind it or an unsuccess behind it.
Well, I have one very similar, Jamie, in Missouri, that the borrower was stopped paying. I guess she was in a car accident where she killed her granddaughter. Yeah, this is just an awful story. We tried to work with her. She kept failing. It was a loan in one of my other funds that thankfully got closed out, but it was a contract for deed, and we finally get possession of the house. And this house is just, on the outside, it actually looked pretty good. On the inside, man, oh man, whew, basically the city came in and condemned it. And they're like, okay, like, and we had it listed for like 40,000, didn't move, and the agent's like, oh, we should list this for $5,000. And I'm like, I'll be cutting a check after paying everyone fees. I'm like, no.
Right.
And literally, actually, I have the letter right here going to the city that is saying the demo notice. I wrote on the demo notice, like, I'll deed the property over to you. Fund is closed. There's no assets left in it. Like, they want to demo it. I'm like, go ahead, but I don't want the property. Like, you can have it. You know, it's got zero value. It's probably worth, like I said, $5,000, but the demo costs are more than that. So to deal with it, I'm like, go ahead, have it, take it.
That's a little trickier because it's a CFD, trickier than mine in that sense.
Yeah.
We just did a release of lien, recorded it, and we were done with the property. But yeah, that's interesting. So
yeah, I included a deed to you know, company Labrador Lending on it as well. So so if you're ever upset with somebody or you don't like them, just deed them a property that's a junk property. They're never even gonna know. So happy birthday, Jamie.
That is crazy to do that, right?
Oh man.
Jay, let's just go around the.
I mean, I've got a couple situations. I got a scenario right now that it's coming up on the year plus mark. All right. Had a borrower. We purchased a note. The borrower is paid perfectly for 2 years, and then notified us that husband and wife, that the husband had hurt his back. He had had back problems over the years, and that he was going to be filing disability claim. And we got verification on that he truly was injured, and he couldn't work, and he had stopped his job. And so we gave him a reprieve, and they communicated really well with us, quite honestly. They let us know what was going on, what the disability attorney is saying and everything. You know, obviously, you know, I just knew from my past experiences that it's going to, if they're truly going to try to get this, then it's going to take a year, all right, for them to go through the process and everything. So so we deferred payments for 6 months. They would continue to pay their escrows, but they couldn't afford their P&I payment. And we came up to the mark, and their attorney saying it's going to be sometime in October. So we essentially have deferred again, and they are paying for the they pay for the modification, and they're continuing to pay their escrows, right, which they have done. Okay. So we'll see. We've given them to the end of the year. All right, and basically communicated with them that there will be no more deferments after this point. And they're expecting to find out in October what kind of award that they have. Hopefully it comes through. And the plan is that, okay, once we know what their income is, because literally what the wife is making, the husband was the primary breadwinner, and what the wife is making is just basically covering their living expenses, is what it's basically doing. So we're working with them. You know, the plan is that once we know what their income is going to be, we'll recast the loan and see if we can get them back on track. You know, kudos to the borrowers. They have been very communicated. They've communicated with us very well. They've kept us abreast of what's going on. So yeah, those are just life situations that you run into, all right, when you're working with borrowers. And it's like, okay, I hate deferring a year's worth of payments, but do I need to foreclose on this? I mean, the loan was originally set up for 240 months, so we've got a lot of flexibility however we need to work this. So I don't anticipate it'll be a lost scenario. I hope not, for the borrower's standpoint. I mean, the home's a wonderful home. I don't have a problem in foreclosing, but you know, that's not the purpose of what we're wanting. It's much more beneficial to us over the long term. We keep them in there and keep them performing. So it's just an example of a lot of different things that you deal with in people's lives.
What about bankruptcy? Did they look into that?
They have not. They have not filed for bankruptcy. All right.
What state is it in?
It's in Michigan.
Okay.
So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
No, it's and that's one of the interesting things about being in this space is, it's like sitting at a poker table and being able to read the cards around you. And some people just always want to just push it all in and force somebody to like call your bluff. And, oh, I'm going to go foreclose in Michigan because I can foreclose in 5-6 months or, whatever it is. And there is a redemption period. But, I think a lot of people forget, especially today, with the amount of equity people have in their properties, that, they're just going to pull out, basically the Uno draw 4 card, which is bankruptcy, and basically say like, okay, here you go. And when you do that, it can hurt you a lot more times than it can help you.
Well, it's going to hurt you also from your relationship with the borrower too. I mean,
Yeah.
if they were very good payers beforehand, they've done all of the responsible things that you would expect for a borrower to do. So I'm not real anxious to pull, the card. You talk about equity, they literally could sell this house and pay off our loan and probably still have another $40,000-$50,000 of cash in their pocket if push comes to shove. But they want to stay there, they want to live there, and we'll see.
Yeah, it is one of the nice things about this, like the space, is you have discretion in how you handle things.
Yeah,
within reason, of course.
Yeah, within reason.
And you usually have options, more than one option as a note investor or lender. So, yeah.
See, I got quite a few stories.
Well, I have a couple others I can share too.
Do you want me to go make some popcorn, or
just pick one?
You might want to sit the kids down in front of the camera here and just get snuggled up, because this is going to put you to sleep. No, I do get situations with borrowers where they stop paying for whatever reason, purposefully or not purposely, just life happens. I always push to go through the foreclosure process, the pre-foreclosure process, as quick as I can, because what I find is the borrowers start to respond when they get that attorney letter in the mail.
Yeah,
and it's not just the demand letter; it's the demand letter on top of the other stuff that's coming in, and the pushing from the servicer. And so, this particular loan I bought in North Carolina. I forget what city it's in off the top of my head. I had bought it 2 years ago, and I bought it from somebody that was a real estate agent that had bought property in that area, and they pretty much just owner financed just a few of them here and there, like 1 or 2 a year. And this was the one that I bought from this lady. I actually bought a couple from her in the previous year that she had, and this particular one, it had a good down payment. I think it was like over 10% down payment, maybe like 15% down payment. And they had made a couple of payments on the loan, and things looked really good, and they showed some good income. So I get the loan, and it's paying for, I don't know, let's just say 6 or 7 months, sounds about right. And then they start to slow pay, meaning they may skip a payment and they pay on the 60th day, but they're still 30 days behind. And then they do that again, and then they pay it the 90th day as opposed to 60th day. So they started getting behind. I said, okay, there's a problem here. And I was finding out that my servicer was trying to communicate to them via phone call, and they wouldn't. And the servicer was documenting like, hey, I made the phone call, they didn't answer, or it went to voicemail where there was no voicemail to pick up to leave a voicemail. So the borrower would never call back. And eventually the borrower had a day off from work, and they called and they said, look, I work until 9 p.m. at night. And I'm thinking they're like the owner of like a flower shop or something. Because something in their email described like being a florist, I guess. And so that's what made me think that. But yeah, they can't talk on the phone during the day, and not even for 5 minutes. And they only want to be sent either email, or if they do happen to call in, they have to have a Spanish speaker. And so I relay all this to the servicer. And so communication is getting kind of sparse, and it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm getting irritated. We need to start going through foreclosure. So I let this go on too far. I should have, put this going stronger, quicker than I did. So that was shame on me. But when we start pushing on it, all of a sudden she was sending in, $2,500 checks, $3,500 checks or whatever, trying to get caught up. I was like, okay, this is good. And then guess what happens? She's doing it again. She's dragging it on. She's skipping a payment or two. And it gets down the road, and we do the same thing. We in North Carolina, it cost us with our attorney like $2,000. I don't know if it's a retainer or just the normal foreclosure thing. Like that's the program. Like they need the $2,000 now, and then you can get it's a recoverable cost in North Carolina, so I can put it on the borrower's loan charges. So as they're paying me back, they can also pay down that foreclosure fee that I kind of outlaid to begin with. That happened again. Third time, starts going again, same story. And I'm like, okay, there's a pattern to this. I'm not going to win at all. So this was dragging on, and I immediately went to foreclosure as quick as I could. And in North Carolina, it goes pretty quickly. I want to say it was in like 3 or 4 months, we were already ready to do some sort of judgment being filed. And the borrower had showed up at the hearing and was, pleading their case or whatnot and saying they just need more time. So the judge awards them more time. So another 60 days goes by. And by this time, this borrower is probably 220 days behind in delinquency. And so I'm getting irritated. And then another continuance happens. And I'm like, oh my God. So then all of a sudden she asked for a demand letter, because I'm not a demand letter, a payoff letter, so that she can get, she wants to pay out the house. I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? Apparently she was trying to sell a house in Puerto Rico that she had owned. So I guess she moved there from Puerto Rico, and it had enough equity in there to where she would get a cash payment to be able to pay off this loan that she has with this house. So I kind of sniffed that one out and was calling the bluff on that one. I said, okay, if that's the case, then, give us the closing documents, give us the title company's name so we can contact them. And of course, crickets, right? They don't give us any information. Okay, you're telling the truth here, right? I really believe you, right? So we get to the point to where I had the judge getting ready to drop the gavel, and I think it was recently. It was a couple weeks ago, and it was, let's just say it was September 25th was like the date that you had to pay it off, or this house was going to be sold through foreclosure. And then so she has 2 checks come in to the servicer with no notification or communication, like the day before. 2 checks, one for like $6,500 and one for like $3,500, right? So total of like $10,000. And then we're just like, what the heck is this? Like, this isn't the amount. They owe us like $15,000 to get the whole thing caught up, just so that we wouldn't go forward with foreclosure.
Just to reinstate.
Thank you. Just to reinstate the loan. And so the money's held in suspense. And so they finally got a hold of her through email, and they said, we received 2 checks from you, but this is short. It's not the right amount. And so she replies back and says, I'm so sorry. I would really appreciate it if you could show me some grace, and, if you could use that money. And I got another $2,500 coming right behind it. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. First of all, I'm thinking, like, is this going to clear? So I tell my servicer, keep it in suspense, cash the check, let me know when it clears, if it does, and then I will accept, the $10,000. That was like 2/3 of what they owe. So I'm thinking, like, okay, I can lower my cost basis here. I can get all my recoverables back pretty quickly. So I'm not really out anything. They're still behind. And so that's what we did with it. And then we were able to delay the final judgment as well. So we didn't lose our place in line with foreclosure. I said, see if you can get a continuance. I told our attorney for another 30 days to wait for this check to clear, plus another one coming through, so I can verify, okay, she's getting me most of the way caught up. So I'm willing to buy this time and work with this, because at the end of the day, she's really only going to be like 60 or 90 days behind after she gets this payment to go through, which I'm okay with, because I'd much rather start lowering my cost basis, knowing going forward, if she does this again, that at least if I go through foreclosure, I'm just lowering my cost basis. So
sure,
it's in my fund, so I have time. I don't have an immediate need to get it sold or anything. So just working with it. But that was one of my recent experiences with the borrower delaying things.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, sounds like The Florist. Relaying a little bit of the movie Friday, was like Smokey and from Big Perm, and doing a little bit of not selling this stuff and lighting it up and not getting the money for it is what it seems like Justin is in this situation. So
I mean, apparently she works 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and is unable to talk on the phone, but she has a cell phone. It's like, he has a house in Puerto Rico that apparently she can't provide a closing statement for.
Yeah, I had one similar. I won't go into the whole thing, but just a couple years ago in Texas, where we ended up, the guy did, I think he owed, I think to reinstate, it was like $40,000, and he sent in a check for 10 grand, and we ended up sending it back to him and went through with foreclosure. And Chris mentioned the exterior of the property and another one looking good, and then the interior not so much. This is the one I've lost the most money on a single deal, because we got inside, we foreclosed, took the property back, got inside, and it needed at least like 80 grand just to get to even, remotely listable. And probably in hindsight should have kept the 10 grand. But you just don't know.
Yeah. So you try and do the right thing, and
yeah, I mean, you do the right, and like again, it looked like there was a lot of equity in it. So, based on the information we had, we made the right decision, but hindsight's 2020. So,
right.
So I wanted to ask you guys a story, because I saw somebody post a video online about an asset they're buying, and I was watching the video and I was like, wow, I viewed it as extremely risky, and I was just curious to get your thoughts on it, because the person was buying a non-performing loan in Texas, so fast foreclosure state, but but the payoff was $170,000. They're buying it for $150,000, but in the video, basically, he's talking about my exit strategy, because the borrower's behind, is to get them to refinance, because they're like 75 years old, into a reverse mortgage. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, let's say you do that. You're making 20 grand on 150, but it's going to take you, to get a reverse mortgage doesn't happen overnight. There's training and everything got to go through, and then to get a 75-year-old person to go do that, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, I would take like a year. And then I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to advance taxes and I'm like, just make 20 grand on 150 it's like a 12. I'm like, then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if you foreclose, they're gonna file bankruptcy, because a 74-year-old woman's not gonna allow you to foreclose if there's 300,000 equity in this property. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I was like, it didn't make sense on this deal. That, and person's listening that, on this, that bought it, well, we'll give you some advice. But
highly doubt anyone's listening.
Damn. But I'm just, looking at it from perspective of, man, I'm looking at, okay, 170, even in Texas, I'm like, I'd still want to make 40 or 50 grand on that thing, just to be safe.
That's a big cash outlay.
Right.
Yeah. Unknown time frame.
Yeah. Not only is it a high percentage payoff.
Yeah. My gosh, it's 88%.
Right.
Percentage. I mean, you're buying an NPL at 88% of UPB.
And I bet you, if you look at the loan, it's probably like written at like a 4% note.
Yeah.
So basically, it's, the payments are probably screaming low too.
I mean,
I would discount,
even if they were paying less than that, to come in with a plan of getting them to refinance. I mean, it's a good.
It's cool,
a good attempt. Like,
good attempt.
Not a bad, not a bad strategy, but just
a
lot bigger discounts needed there to.
Right, but also don't bank on that happening. The refinance happening.
My exit would be, okay, I'm going to bid on this as a bankruptcy loan and taking it through bankruptcy, because that's most likely. And then, okay, maybe my number is 120, 130, whatever number it is. But then if you can get them to refinance instead of bankruptcy, then you get all that upside. Yeah. This to me is like buying a house, paying the renovated cost for it, knowing you got to renovate it, and thinking, oh, well, here's my best case situation.
There's no quality exit strategy there at all.
I mean, I know
for that purchase price.
No, that's what I'm saying. At that purchase price, no. So I had a situation yesterday, just talked with a seller who was interested in selling their note. And had a nice little conversation. And actually, I covered this on my note tidbit today, so that will go out tomorrow. But it has to do, having realistic expectations. And I know we all know this, but I think it was I don't know how old the gentleman was, but he sounded fairly young. But I'm getting older, so everybody sounds younger. So, but the bottom line was, he had this note. It was like I think that he sold the house for $230,000. I'm not going to say where it was, and he was wanting $170,000 for the loan. And I asked him, okay, All right, let's tell me a little bit about the house. He told me about that. And I said, all right, tell me a little bit about the borrower. And I said, what's he do? I don't know. How long has he been doing it? I don't know. Do you have a social security number on him? No. I said, do you have a credit score on him? No. What do you know about him? Well, he had 10% as a down payment, and he said he could afford it. Literally, that was his words.
Oh.
Pinky promise. Keep promise.
So I got a similar story of one of the people in my membership group reached out to me. Is like, is this normal? I'm like, sure. Let me know. So it was a note on a platform that they were asking information on, and the loan's like 100% clearly underwritten by RMLO and this and that and so forth. But the borrower never made one payment from the origination. And so I'm like, okay, ask for the origination file. I'm like, is there a credit report in there? Nope. Bank statements? Nope. What's in there? The guy filled out a application that claims, claimed what his income and expenses were, and that's what they went off of. I'm like, oh, and that's interesting.
That's not like when you go to the underwritten.
It's like when you go to the furniture store and you fill out their credit card info and you say, how much do you make? 500,000. Like, okay.
So we play a new game in our membership group on these seller finance loans that go non-performing. We do Price is Right rules. And we're like, okay, we're going to, like, you look at the house and it's like, oh, it's a $90,000 UPB and Zillow says it's worth, $90,000. They're like, okay, Price is Right rules. What did that house sell for as an REO that they did absolutely nothing to, and they just jacked up the price of the loan? And we'll play a game like Price is Right rules for people like guess what it did, and then you go on Zillow or whatever and see what it sold for. And the one we were in question we were talking about, I think it sold for $39,000 as an REO. Okay. They did nothing to it. This one actually it was $80,000 was the loan, and it's written at like 8%, and they're asking like $50,000 for the note. So they make it look like it's a steep discount, but the property is still only worth probably $30,000. So it's comical. Be careful on those seller finance originated ones.
There was a guy selling a lot of those in Georgia 2 or 3 years ago. I'm sure more than one, but one guy I was familiar with. Same exact. That's just, he repeated that over and over and over. And
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were these two? I'm just curious, Jamie. Was that to owner occupants or were they to investors?
Owner occupants.
Owner occupants. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh jeez. No.
So the other thing to also understand is, when you hire a company to, do the origination for you, understand their title, their license, and more information about that person, because there's different titles and different things different people can do.
Yep.
I
looked at an RML, quote unquote RMLO underwritten note. And I asked the person that was selling the note, I said, okay, I want to see all the data. I want to see all the documents that they pulled from.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Dodd-Frank does not, as I understand, I don't believe Dodd-Frank gives you a debt to income ratio specifically. Okay.
No.
They
don't. I follow the VA. The VA has guidelines. So Safe Harbor, follow
Safe
VA.
Harbor. Agreed. Yep. We typically use, we get uncomfortable much above 40%. All right. That's what we do. This one, the debt to income ratio, and they were marking it. This is our RMLO underwritten. The debt to income ratio was 68%.
So,
and I'm thinking, I told her, I said, I'm not interested in this. This is just, you're just waiting for a foreclosure, and you're wanting wanting par for this.
They got a certificate for the ATR, ability to repay.
They had that.
So here's the interesting thing too.
It wasn't underwritten by who you and I are both thinking, Justin. All right, that we have used. It was not underwritten by him, but it was someone out of Texas, I believe, is where it was underwritten. I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know on this. So man, if even though they're RMLO underwritten, man, dig into those documents and make your own analysis.
So when someone says it's underwritten by an RMLO, ask the question, because, and this is like super nuanced, an actual RMLO is somebody who works for a bank. They're a bank employee. Everybody else is actually just an MLO. So when they say RMLO, but that's the thing, though. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm an RMLO," and it's like, "Are you really?" You know, and yeah. I mean, I'm a MLO, but like, you know, I don't.
What if you're a pirate and you're an MLO? You say RMLO.
RMLO.
Wow.
But there's different classifications for people that you know.
That's for you, Jim.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of people also. Again, there was a company around. I don't know if they're still around. I believe they are and stuff, but you know, understand what their title designation is.
Two other things to mention. I mean, the platform you referred to, Chris, I'm presuming the note that had 0 payments on it was probably listed as a performing loan.
I actually think it was listed as a non-performer.
Okay,
strongly performing.
Hold on, let me
I've seen that many times, and I made the suggestion multiple times over the years that, hey, you know, when it's only these two options as a seller, you know, you're motivated to say it's performing. You know,
it will be someday.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know if they've made 5 payments or say three payments. Is that performing? I don't know. I mean,
I don't know yet. That's
so
early.
like if given the option as a seller, it's performing, you know, so because they generally sell for more, right? So just because it says performing, that doesn't really mean much. And then the other point is just, we've talked about this before, but you know, when you're doing due diligence on the seller is so important. It's not a new concept, but it gets forgotten because it's not in your due diligence checklist on the diligence on the asset itself or the note itself, but who you're buying from. And that's why, you know, I think some of the platforms struggle to do well because there's no regulating agency like there is with the New York Stock Exchange or anything. So it's like, you don't know who you're dealing with.
You don't know your counterparty. You don't know who your counterparty is.
So it's, you know, it has pros and cons to it, and that's one of the cons.
I'm trying to find it to see what it's listed for.
Well, while you're looking that up, I need to tell a story. Story number 2 here.
Pirate story.
Are you ready for this one, kids?
Okay.
Who doesn't have pineapple under the sea? Seller finance note. I bought it from, this is when Richard was with me, and he was on the phone with this gentleman. I think we did a cold text to this note seller. Somewhere, I think it's in Wisconsin. I'm not sure, but maybe Wisconsin or Minnesota. And he's talking with the note seller, and the note seller says, you know, I have this note here. It's a pain in my side. I've had it for X amount of years. Let's just say 3 or 4 years. And the guy just, you know, he just hasn't been paying me. Like, I just want to get rid of it. You know, do you buy stuff like that? And Richard's like drooling. Yeah. We'll buy a non-performing note. That sounds great. And he's talking with the guy, and then he says, "Here, he's just far behind. He just doesn't communicate with me. We try to reach out, blah blah blah." He has what's called a townhouse somewhere in one of those northern states. And so then we end up going through the due diligence, and we see that this delinquent on taxes. It's like $2,000 or $3,000 delinquent on taxes. The note was written for $40,000. I think this was like before COVID, like 2018, and it was on a true note mortgage. And the guy probably hasn't paid at least in, like, let's just say 11 or 12 months. And so the note balance, I believe, was about $35,000, and we offered him $11,000 for it.
I was going to guess 15 is what I was going to guess. So,
well, you got to add the taxes in there. So
good point. Good point.
My gross was the net to him was 11,000, so I ended up probably paying 15 for it. We get the note. Our plan was, we know we're going to deal with a side sore here, but for 15 grand, let's just see what happens, because we saw a value in the townhouse if it was in good condition, like we assumed it was. We could only get pictures from the outside of the townhouse because there's many of them squished together, so we don't really know the condition of it. It's just let's just call it an okay, nice brick townhouse. So we have a picture of a window. We think that's the one or not. So we don't know what's going on the inside. Come to find out, we end up skip tracing and finding the borrower. We do some research on it, and we see that there was a husband and wife that wasn't on the note. It was just the husband was on the note. And there was we think there was some sad story where there were some kids involved and both parents actually went to jail. Wow. And so we were dealing with the guy. And so we had sent some letters, I think demand letters to the actual townhouse. And then we got a phone call back from the borrower. And so then the borrower contacted us, and I think I was on the phone with them, and they were just saying their situation. They apologized. They were incarcerated. They were in jail. They couldn't make the payments. I really want to make the payments, and I want to stay in this townhouse, and I'm willing to do whatever. Will you give me a chance? And Richard and I come up with a payment plan. We said, okay, if you can do X, Y, Z, for the next year, you can get yourself caught up, and then all square. And so for the next year, like clockwork, every month the guy was on time making his payments, and he got it all caught up to a point. And then apparently we didn't check this because I guess you can call us idiots, or we just totally overlooked this, but there were some condo association fees that weren't being paid. So the whole year while we had it with a professional servicer, as opposed to being self-service from the previous seller financier. So these condo fees are building up, and it's kind of steep. It's like, let's just call it $180, $200 a month in condo fees. Mm-hmm. So those were building up. And so then we get the nasty letter from the condo association. He gets the letter. I'm sorry, because it's a note and mortgage. And he calls and says, what's going on? Like, I'm making my payment, and, the condo association is asking me that I don't know what it was, like $10,000, $12,000 behind in condo fees. So maybe it's been 2 years worth because he didn't pay for a year.
Yeah, it sounds like 2 years.
We were with the servicers. So yeah, let's just call it 24 months that weren't being paid. So they were going to try to foreclose. So I'm like freaking out because I didn't check to see if this is a state to where those were super liens.
Super liens. Ooh,
so I called my attorney and said, okay, here's the situation. And thank God, and I will refer this attorney to anybody that's I think it's in a Wisconsin state. And so I said, here's the situation. Please tell me these condo association fees are not going to trump my position. And she just verifies, and she says, no, you're the first lien, as long as the taxes are paid, they're going to go through foreclosure, but they're not going to get in front of you. I said, okay, dodge a bullet there. So then how do you deal with this? So you got a guy that's willing to pay and wants to stay there, and he's not really delinquent. It's kind of, you can say it's our fault for not collecting the condo fees because it was supposed to be part of the escrow and we just didn't catch that. Or is it his fault for not letting us know that? You can go either way on that. Mm-hmm. So we decided that because this guy had been through a lot, he's made his payments, he's shown his track record for 12 months, that we would front that cost and we would add it to the loan balance and just remodify the loan and just add it to it. And, it wasn't for a big return on it because I think the face value of the interest rate was probably like 6 or 7%. So we just added it to the loan because our cost basis is, next to nothing in this. And that way we can put it on the loan, and then, it still keeps our cash flow and our yield strong, really. Not our cash flow. The cash flow is kind of small, but the yield
raise the principal balance and then should be worth more. So
so then we just cut a check at the last minute. I tried to negotiate with the condo to say, hey, will you take $1,000 just to go away?
Right.
No,
they won't.
No. And they got their attorney involved. Their attorney was nice, and he talked to me. And it's just like, look, man, I'm the lender. I walked into this shitstorm, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you do here? He's like, well, there's some equity in there. So guess what? We'll just all foreclose. And I was like, I don't want to put this guy out. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's I'm blaming some other person. It's this guy's fault.
He goes Richard's to fault. You pay, stay. So.
Look, don't cut the yard, don't cut the grass. I don't care.
So, I mean, the condo looks pretty nice that you've got in your background there, Justin. That you're living there now, right?
This is my penthouse.
I'm just kidding.
I'm out here in California. The sun's still shining. But that's what we did. So we fronted the costs for the condo association delinquent fees. We got it all paid off. We remodified the loan, put all the pieces together. The guy's still paying like clockwork, and he's still getting caught up on it. I think he's got it paid down to where there's only, a few $1,000s left that he owes us in
nice.
back loan charges. Excuse me, no, it's all inside the loan. So he's all caught up now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's paying. He's got the escrow in there, and he's paying the condo fee outside of the escrow. For some reason, the servicer I'm working with, we couldn't add the condo fees to the escrow or the impound because it was condo fees. If it was a homeowners association, I think you could, or maybe I have it backwards. But there was some reason Jamie,
I don't know about that. That sounds more of a legal.
Hold on. I have a condo. That's a rental.
I don't know why.
And no, I pay outside of the. I do pay outside of the mortgage.
But I mean, I don't know why.
It wasn't considered
HOA versus condo association.
I'm trying to think if I also.
Interesting.
No, I still have my insurance and taxes that they pay. So yeah, I don't know why the condo's outside of it.
I was going to say, if they can foreclose on you, then why couldn't you include it? I mean, it's just
that's a good question.
By
I have a rental in Maryland, and I'm just curious. I pay the condo fee every month.
I think by definition, it doesn't qualify for an escrow. I think an escrow has to be taxes or insurance or both.
Taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that'll qualify. Outside of that, they call it, I'm sorry, they call it an impound, right, Jamie?
Right. Yes.
And then outside of that, you can still have other fees that the borrower pays and they pay for you, but for some reason, it just didn't work like that. So I wasn't trying to fight. I was like, I don't give a shit. I paid it. Let's just move on. Make sure he pays it.
Time to move on.
You're right. You're right, though. Escrow is taxes and homeowners, property taxes and homeowners insurance.
Insurance only.
Yeah. So then I got like 25,000 into this thing, and it's still got $45,000 left on the balance or whatnot. So.
Got it.
But when you have a borrower that's showing the effort of making the payment and is true to their word, that's somebody you go to bat.
You work with. You don't want to throw that out.
I have no issues with this guy at all. He needs more money. I'm happy to figure out a way to make that work.
So I have one that we did something similar, which is this was a unique situation.
I'm sorry, we are all out of time. It's like I ended on the best note. Okay. All right, 70 seconds, Chris. All right.
No, the borrower, there's title issues on this asset where we're first, but technically we're not, but we have insurance. The borrower filed bankruptcy, never made a payment in bankruptcy, hasn't made a payment in a year and a half. Then calls up and says, hey, I reinstated the other loan. I can give you $3,000 down and start making $1,000 per month just to keep this thing paying. And the payment was only like $300 or $400 a month, and she'd be caught up in like 10 months. And it's like, oh, do you just keep going on a foreclosure and spend money, or take the money coming in the door? And this woman's like, I didn't have a job. I apologize. I'm working. I'm this and stuff. And, it was extremely proactive. And I was like, yeah, we'll give you a chance. And if you fail, then we'll go back to where we were, but I'm of the mindset to try and give them the chance, and I got 13 seconds left, and I'll stop it there.
I think that is the key point, is the communication and cooperative, level of the borrower here, right?
And follow through. I mean, if they're saying, if they say they're going to do it,
stop the clock.
If they say they're going to do it, then
talk
you do
is
it.
cheap, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. And I have communicated that before. And so, all right, you say you're going to do this. I'll work with you as long as you do what you say you're going to do. Yeah. You don't do what you're not going to, that you say you're going to do. We're done.
You're
still talking about parenting, or are we doing
something
parenting?
like that? Yeah.
It's the same thing. Vendor and parenting. I just combine those words together. My God. I think it's too late in the day for me.
Jamie, if you try and make sure, if you talk to like Beth and have her come on like an episode, just make sure she doesn't have like a non-compete from being on other, shows and stuff, and you're not stealing her. So just FYI.
Gotcha. What other shows?
From Seveney Investments.
So
I see. You have exclusive rights?
No, I don't. Somebody else may, and we don't want to upset others. So
okay.
I've seen her on multiple areas.
Oh, she's been on like 1,000 of them.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've seen her quite on.
Probably the same question.
There's an inside joke there. She was on my podcast. Maybe I'm going to be sued.
Okay, all right. I don't know the inside joke.
No, I don't either. I don't either, Jay. I'm on the outside like you. With
offline, I'll share the story.
Away. We can't smack each other on top of the heads. So.
Yeah. I have some guesses. I
can only guess.
Gentlemen, thank you for another delightful, I won't say the episode, broadcast here. I forgot to mention, I actually was going to play a video and I totally spaced it, but for those of you that have made it this far, thank you. for making it this far in the broadcast. You are definitely bored.
That are hungry and wanting to learn.
Yeah. The next time we're gonna meet is gonna be November. I forget the date. I don't have my
7th.
calendar in front of me. See, 7th?
6th.
6th?
I think.
Is that it?
That's the first Wednesday? Or we do
No.
second?
No, I think
13th.
13th.
I know
Yeah,
because
13th.
election day is the 5th, and I have a foreclosure on election day, which blows my mind, but that's a whole other situation. So, and I know it's the first Tuesday, so that's how I know it's.
Well, Note Expo will be happening before the next event. So those of you that are looking for a note conference and you happen to be a easy travel distance to Dallas, Texas, or if you wish to, fly down there, that is my favorite conference of the year. Just because my mentor, Mr. Eddie Speed, and Jay Redding's mentor as well. Well, he will be pretty much running the Note Expo, and he has a lot of really cool guests. I know Chris is unable to make it because he's dealing with something really special out in Georgia, right?
Yep.
Jamie, are you going to make it to Note Expo?
No, unfortunately, no. Yep.
I know Jay's going to be there.
I'll be there.
He's going to be there with his cowboy boots and cowboy hat.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Just will be speaking. All right, he's going to be speaking out there.
I'll be out there speaking. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll be out there. I'll do one of the note talks.
We're just going to
20-minute snooze
just
fest.
replay this broadcast.
Just replay it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just replay.
I'm not gotten to that level yet here. So
NoteExpo.com. Go
There you
there
go.
and get your tickets and travel down there. It's going to be a really great experience. A lot of cool speakers. I forget who their motivational speaker is, but somebody that I think played in the NFL.
yeah, it's an NFL guy. I can't remember who it is either right offhand. So, but get a chance to talk with us, both Justin and I.
Yeah,
Personally,
probably
be happy to speak with you.
Yeah, Jay will be happy to speak with you. I'll be thrilled to speak with you. That's the difference. And we're out of time. See you next time, guys.
Imagine that.
Take care.
Take care.
Are we?